Have you ever sat in total silence? No phone, no messages, no distractions, just you and your thoughts. For most men, that silence feels unbearable. They run from it, into relationships they don't truly want, into conversations that mean nothing, into approval they never needed. But the Stoics, Marcus Aurelius, Epictetus, Seneca, they saw solitude not as emptiness, but as the birthplace of power. Marcus once wrote, "Nowhere can a man find a quieter or more untroubled retreat than in his own soul." And that's where this journey begins. Because when a man stops chasing and starts choosing, he becomes someone different, someone clearer, stronger, unshakable, not bitter, not cold, but full of purpose, disciplined, dangerous in the best way. So if you're tired of trying to be enough for everyone else, if you're ready to stop shrinking just to be liked, then this message is for you, because today, we're not just talking about attraction. We're talking about transformation, about becoming the kind of man who doesn't need to be chosen, because he's already chosen himself. Are you ready? Let's begin. 1. Choosing relationships on your terms. Most men don't choose their relationships. They fall into them, out of fear. Fear of being alone, fear of rejection, fear that maybe no one better will come. And because of that fear, they tolerate what they shouldn't. They stay where respect is gone. They bend their values, they silence their voice, just to avoid the sting of solitude. But the man who's embraced that solitude, he's no longer afraid of being alone. He's learned to thrive in it. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The best revenge is to be unlike him who performed the injury." And that means you don't lower yourself for someone who doesn't see your worth. You don't become smaller just to make someone else stay. You choose, wisely, deliberately, from a place of wholeness, not desperation. You're not looking for someone to complete you. You're already complete. And that changes everything. Because the man who's built his mind, who's sharpened his discipline, who's created a full, meaningful life on his own, he doesn't tolerate chaos. He doesn't cling to drama. He doesn't chase validation through someone else's affection. He chooses peace. He chooses alignment. He chooses a woman only if she brings value, not noise. Seneca said, "He who is a friend to himself is never alone." Think about that. When you're grounded, when you've built a life that inspires you, you're no longer afraid to walk away from anyone who disrespects it. If she plays games, you stay calm. If she pulls away, you don't chase. If she demands you lower your standards, you walk. Not with anger, not with bitterness, with peace. Because you know what you bring, and you know your worth isn't up for negotiation. Epictetus taught, "Freedom is the only worthy goal in life. It is won by disregarding things that lie beyond our control." And love is not about control. It's about choice. So when you stop needing a relationship, you stop being ruled by emotion, and you start making clear decisions. That's when you become the man who doesn't get overlooked, the man who doesn't get played, the man who doesn't chase, because he's too focused building a life worth sharing. And here's the final truth. When you stop seeking love to fill a void, when you live with purpose and power and peace, only the right woman will step into your world. not because you begged, not because you lowered yourself, but because she sees a man so rare, so grounded, so whole, that to be part of his life is a privilege. 2. Mastering emotional strength. Most men crack under pressure. They snap when challenged. They panic when life doesn't go as planned. They beg when someone pulls away. Why? Because they're not in control. Their emotions are: anger drives their reactions. Fear guides their choices. Loneliness decides who they hold on to. But the man who embraces solitude, he's different. He's not avoiding his pain. He's confronting it, sitting with it, wrestling with every dark corner of his mind until it no longer scares him. That man becomes unshakable. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." And this is what most men never understand. Your strength doesn't come from being loud. It doesn't come from forcing respect. It comes from the silence you've conquered inside yourself. Because when you've faced your fears, really faced them, no one can use them against you. You don't panic when someone leaves. You don't chase when you feel rejected. You don't lash out when you're disrespected. Instead, you pose, you breathe, and you choose your response. That is emotional mastery. Seneca said, "No man is more unhappy than he who never faces adversity, for he is not permitted to prove himself, and adversity will come. Life will test you. People will try you. But the man who has trained in solitude, who has strengthened himself through discipline, doesn't flinch. A woman plays games. He doesn't chase. Someone insults him. He doesn't explain himself, because he knows who he is. And that's more powerful than any reaction he could give. Most men fold under pressure because they've never taken time to build a foundation. But the man who sits in silence, who learns to breathe through the chaos, he becomes a fortress. Epictetus said, "We suffer not from the events in our lives, but from our judgment about them." So he rewires his judgment. He stops calling discomfort weakness. He sees it as training, and with every moment he remains calm. He gets stronger. And here's the truth. A man who has mastered his emotions becomes untouchable. No insult can break him. No woman can manipulate him. No chaos can shake him, because he doesn't seek control over others. He's already gained control over himself. So if you've been feeling unstable, reactive, desperate, step back. Step into the silence. Because the man who faces himself, who walks alone through the fire without running, that man becomes a force no one can move. And once you reach that level of calm, you don't just survive storms, you command them. 3. Unlocking laser-sharp focus. In today's world, distraction is everywhere. Most men live scattered. Their minds jump from screen to screen, from craving to craving, from one meaningless moment to the next. But not because they're lazy, because they've forgotten what focus even feels like. But the man who embraces solitude, he remembers, because when you stop pouring your energy into empty conversations, into people who drain you, into approval that never satisfies, something awakens. Your mind sharpens. The fog lifts. The noise fades. And suddenly you see clearly. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Concentrate every minute like a Roman, on doing what's in front of you with precise and genuine seriousness. That's laser focus. No more asking, what should I do with my life? You know what matters. Your mission, your craft, your growth. While others scroll, you build. While others chase, you train. While others waste days talking, you're stacking wins, brick by brick, hour by hour. Seneca once said, "It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste a lot of it." And he was right, because every second you spend chasing what doesn't matter, you lose ground. You delay your purpose. You cheat your future self. But when you reclaim that time and you invest it into your discipline, your skills, your strength, you begin to move differently. People can feel it. Your energy becomes sharper, your presence more commanding. You walk into rooms and people notice, not because you ask to be seen, but because you've become someone worth seeing. And here's the truth. Focus is a superpower, especially now, when most men are scattered. A man who can sit alone, fully committed to his path, becomes unreasonable to ignore. Epictetus said, "First, say to yourself what you would be, and then do what you have to do." And that's the Stoic code. You stop getting lost in the chaos. You stop watering weeds. You pour everything into the mission. And in that silence, you build something unshakable. So, if you've been drifting, if your mind feels cluttered, if your energy's been leaking into things that don't build you, stop, step back, and lock in. Because once your focus is forged, you won't need to chase success anymore. Success will find you. 4. Raising your standards with confidence. When you stop chasing approval, something powerful happens inside you. Your mind clears, the noise fades, and suddenly you no longer feel the need to bend, to shrink, to compromise, just to keep people in your life. Instead, something rises. Your standards, not out of pride, not out of ego, but out of self-respect. You begin to see things differently. The friends who drain your energy, the relationships that leave you feeling hollow, the people who only show up when they need something from you, and you finally call it what it is, noise. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts." So, if your thoughts are filled with chaos and compromise, your soul will reflect it. But a man of standards, he refuses to be dyed by chaos. He doesn't chase people who play games. He doesn't tolerate disrespect in the name of love. He doesn't cling to anyone who brings drama instead of peace. Why? Because he knows his time is sacred, his energy is limited, and his presence is not a discount item. He becomes deliberate, selective, clear. He knows exactly what he wants. And more importantly, he knows what he'll never tolerate again. Seneca said it best. Associate with people who are likely to improve you. Welcome those whom you yourself can improve. That's a standard. That's a filter. And when you raise your standards, the world doesn't collapse. It clarifies. The wrong people fall away. The selfish disappear. And only the strong remain. You don't lose people. You stop keeping the wrong ones. And women, they feel it instantly. Because they can tell when a man isn't afraid to walk away, when he doesn't flinch at distance, when he doesn't compromise his values just to stay in her life. That kind of man doesn't need to raise his voice. He doesn't argue. He doesn't chase. He simply stands firm, calm, unmoved. Epictetus said, "Don't explain your philosophy, embody it." And that's what this man does. He doesn't announce his worth. He lives it, in how he speaks, in what he tolerates, in how quickly he walks away from anything beneath his dignity. So if you've been shrinking, if you've been settling, if you've been tolerating people who don't feed your soul, it's time. Raise your standards and live by them. Because when you do, you don't just gain respect, you attract peace. And the man who walks with peace walks with power. 5. Breaking free from approval, seeking. Most men live their lives chasing approval. They change their words to avoid judgment. They hide their thoughts just to keep the peace. They say yes when they want to scream no. All because they're terrified of being disliked, ignored, or forgotten. They text back too fast. They agree to things they don't believe in. They shrink their voice, hoping someone will accept them. But here's the truth. Approval is a prison, and most men don't even realize they're locked inside. Epictetus said, "If you want to be free, learn to stop valuing the opinion of others more than your own." Let that sink in. A man who embraces solitude, he doesn't wake up wondering, "Am I good enough?" He wakes up asking, "Do I respect myself?" That shift, from seeking validation to building self-respect, it changes everything. Because the moment you stop chasing approval is the moment people start giving it to you freely. Why? Because real presence doesn't need to prove itself. It just is. When you stop asking, "Do they like me?" and start asking, "Am I proud of who I'm becoming?" you become magnetic. Women feel it. Friends sense it. The world responds to it. Not because you're louder, but because you're grounded, calm, focused. Seneca wrote, "A man who follows the crowd will never go further than the crowd. A man who walks alone is likely to find himself in places no one has ever been." And this is the paradox. When you stop trying to be chosen, you become the one people want to choose. Not because you're chasing, but because you've become solid, stable, unshakably yourself. So if you've spent your life performing, trying to be enough, trying to be liked, stop. Stop shrinking. Stop apologizing for your standards. Stop begging for validation from those who don't even know who they are. Marcus Aurelius said, "It is not death that a man should fear, but never beginning to live according to nature." And your nature is not to chase, it's to stand tall, to speak your truth, to walk your path, not for attention, but because it's the path of strength, and the man who dares to walk it will never need to ask for respect again. He'll command it, silently. So now you understand, this journey isn't about giving up on love. It's about giving up on chasing it. Because when you chase, you shrink, you beg, you forget your worth. But when you stop, when you choose silence over noise, solitude over desperation, standards over approval, something powerful happens. You don't become cold. You become calm. You don't become distant. You become deliberate. You stop being the man who hopes to be chosen, and you become the man who chooses, on his terms, from his strength, with clarity and purpose. Marcus Aurelius once said, "Waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be. Be one." So build your mind, guard your peace, raise your standards, and walk away from anything that doesn't align with your values. Because when you no longer seek to be completed, you show up whole, and that's when the world, not just women, starts choosing you. Stay grounded, stay focused, and remember, the man who commands silence commands respect. Thanks for watching Stoic Horizon. Until next time, keep building the man only few will ever become.